We've all become students of data. I keep watching the numbers. I try to always give you the numbers both here in the United States and around the world. Here in the US, we have now at least 337,000 cases of COVID 19, at least 9,600 deaths. We are inching towards 10,000 deaths. In New York State alone, 123,000 cases, at least 4,100 deaths. Around the world, over 1,200,000 cases, and at least 69,000 people have died from the coronavirus. The Surgeon General said on a show yesterday morning it's going to be a rough week. Cut one. Here's Jerome Adams, who was on our show last week, the United States Surgeon General, preparing us for what is going to be apparently a brutal, brutal week.
This is going to be the hardest and the saddest week of most Americans' lives, quite frankly. This is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment, our 9/11 moment, only it's not going to be localized. It's going to be happening all over the country. So I want Americans to understand that as hard as this week is going to be, there is a light at the end of the tunnel if everyone does their part for the next 30 days.
And we're starting to see some little glimmers of light. We're starting to see some good news about Spain and Italy. They seem to be starting to flatten the curve. Even in New York, they had half the hospitalizations on Friday that they had on Saturday. It was their first drop in daily deaths. Governor Cuomo said they also experienced a slight drop in intensive care admissions. Uh, and he said the hospital discharge rate is way up. So that he called that great news. So there's no question that one of the great conversations we've had to have is the balance between the public health and safety and getting better and getting over this awful, awful virus, having it wash through, as the president has said, and when businesses can reopen, which businesses will be first to reopen, and how. It is a very delicate conversation because none of us want to be accused of disregarding the lives of human beings. If you've got a loved one who's sick with COVID 19, you're not really worried about anything other than getting your loved one well. And I so get that. I want you to know I appreciate that. But we also have people who are in dread, who are locked down, whose small business is shut, and they don't know if they're going to make it. And a big part of that are restaurants. Some restaurants just can't stay open. Many restaurants that are typically open are closed, but they're open for curbside delivery and carryout. I try to patronize them as much as I can. Communities need to lift up other parts of the community. But what about this balance between trying to get restaurants and hotels and stores opened again at the right time? Clearly, when we do not want to go to do it too quickly, but we also can't risk doing it too late. One of our partners here on the Mike Gallagher Show has been Job Creators Network. Very important resource for small businesses all over the country. And as part of our partnership, we wanted to talk to the president of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. It's the largest hotel owners association in America. And of course, you recognize the name Chip Rogers because he had been elected to the General Georgia Assembly 6 times, and he served 2 terms as the Senate Majority Leader, so he knows his way or two around a political conversation. Mr. Rogers is now president of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and it's wonderful to have you on the show, sir. How are you?
I am great. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you having me.
Well, we appreciate your time, and I don't want to drag you into the kind of the political shenanigans that are continuing to go on back and forth and the blame game, and it just distresses me because there's so much of this going on, whether it's governors or the president or Fauci or Birx. I want to talk a little bit about the group that you're now at the helm of, the American Hotel and Lodging Association. First of all, explain your organization to people who are listening. What is the American Hotel and Lodging Association, Chip?
So we represent the hotel and lodging industry. That goes from your very smallest single hotels, and some would call them motels, all the way up to your largest iconic resorts and all the brands that are represented across America, from Marriott and Hilton and IHG and Wyndham and Choice. So pretty much the entire industry.
I gotta believe that your industry has been decimated. And in fact, frankly, I don't know that there's been enough conversation about small motel owners and smaller, maybe boutique hotels, or even the Marriotts and the big hotels. Is it is every bit as bad as I think it is?
Is probably worse. We have never seen anything like this. Keep in mind that when you talk about travel in the United States from a hotel perspective, there's really a three-legged stool. The first leg is leisure travel, people that go on vacations. Right now, they would either be finishing up spring break or looking forward to summer vacation. The second leg is business travel, which is actually the most profitable in the hotel industry. It represents about 65% of all revenue. And then the third leg are your major conferences and conventions and large meetings. So the first to go in this problem was the meetings and conferences and conventions. The second was the business travel, and then the leisure travel as the country shut down. So consequently, for our industry, no one's traveling, no one's staying at hotels. Occupancy rates are the lowest in recorded history. Revenue has fallen to just about zero for most hotels, and about half the hotels or more are already closed.
So there's been all of this talk about trying to get small businesses loans, financial assistance. This is a big deal. I've been getting bombarded with complaints from small business owners saying they can't even navigate the system, they can't get through. Do your members face that kind of a challenge, Chip? Are there motel owners and people who run lodging that can't seem to make the connection so far to try to get the financial assistance that the government has promised?
Yes, that is happening. But first, let me just say we want to thank the lawmakers who actually created this. If you think about it, they created the largest legislative response to a crisis in the history of the world. They did it in just a couple of weeks. Now they're trying to get $350 billion dollars through a system that typically only spends about 50 or 60 billion a year. So what they're trying to do has never been accomplished before. So we understand that. However, there are some struggles, and we've seen since last week when when the program went online that a lot of business owners who are literally waiting by the hour to see if they can keep their hotels alive, to keep those businesses afloat. They're not able to get access to the resources. So we hope this is fixed quickly. We're not blaming anybody. We understand this has never been done before, but that need is probably more critical than most people realize.
Absolutely. And Chip, I have to ask you about that difficult decision that's going to have to be made. And I don't even know what level it's made at. If the states are going to start saying, "Hey, this motel can open, this restaurant can open back up, this store can open up," how do you've been around a long time. You've been a very effective and successful politician. Now you're working with the American Hotel and Lodging Association. From your 35,000-foot perspective, what does it look like when we start opening up again? What's going to happen? And where are motels and hotels in that particular pecking order when it does happen?
Well, first and foremost, we recognize that some hotels are just not going to open up again. They're not going to make it through this. And that's very sad. The employees that work there will have to try to find someplace else to work. What we believe we'll see is by midsummer, people beginning to travel again for leisure travel, which is fantastic. So you'll see all those leisure spots bounce back. And look, a hotel is extremely clean. That's one of the questions we got from the outset here. If you think about a hotel compared to just your house, a hotel
Right,
cleans every room is cleaned every day, and they use
right.
products that are actually above what the CDC recommends. So we think hotels are extremely safe places. People will go back to them, but we expect leisure travel and then late in the year business travel, and maybe not until next year will we begin seeing those large meetings and conferences again.
Chip Rogers is the president of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. Of course, Georgians know him quite well. We're talking about this very difficult process of reopening and small business owners. And of course, this segment, thanks to our partnership with Job Creators Network, Chip, more than ever, now more than ever, business owners, small business owners need an advocate like Job Creators Network.
Oh, look, I know Alfredo. I've known him for many, many years. Dear friend of mine. You cannot even capture how important he has been over the last 3 years in the discussions that this country has had, and now more than ever because they're fighting for these small businesses that absolutely will close if they don't get some assistance.
What's the message, the takeaway for our listeners? Everybody's trying to help everybody. My attitude throughout this whole thing has been let's lift everybody up. I'm trying to be as nonpartisan as I can, which is mighty tough for me, Chip. but I'm trying. This virus doesn't care if it infects a Democrat or a Republican, and we ought to be in this together as Americans. I believe most people are. What's your message on behalf of the Hotel and Lodging Association? How can citizens, how can Americans help? Is there anything that we can be doing that can benefit the people that you represent in your industry?
Well, start planning your vacations for late summer. We believe that at least by that time, at least leisure travel will be available for everybody. So if you could plan those vacations and go ahead and start booking them, there's some incredible deals out there, not just in the hotel industry, but airlines and elsewhere. And then the second part, which I know we try not to be partisan here, and I won't be partisan because we're nonpartisan, but as
Right?
Congress looks at this, a fourth package, we've got to keep in mind, let's keep the focus on the problem. Let's not throw in all these extraneous issues that have nothing to do with coronavirus, voting by mail and things like that. Let's set that aside. You guys can fight about that later. Let's focus on these small businesses and these employees who are out of a job. If we keep the focus there, we can make it through this.
Amen. I appreciate your message and I appreciate what you do. Chip Rogers, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your schedule to join us here on the Mike Gallagher Show in the ReliefFactor.com studios. We appreciate you very much, sir.
Thanks.